Do you want to see an experiment using real objects to create a logo design? We'll keep it locked. Hey everyone, it's Philly here and welcome back to another episode. So in this logo design tutorial, we're going to be doing a bit of an experiment. We're going to be using real objects to create a logo design. So you're probably thinking, well, how are you going to do that? Well, keep it locked to find out. I know us designers work with vectors, and as we know, vectors give us that quality and ability to scale things from large to small scales without losing quality. But I want to try something a little bit different. I still want to use my style and same approach that I use when designing logos, but just using real objects and see if I can achieve the same thing and if it can actually be used. This has been done before and I have found two examples, and this is them. If you know of any brands that have taken this approach, drop a comment below and I'll definitely check it out. So the tools I'll be using are a camera with a macro lens, because this will help me get some real high quality images that are close up. I'll then use Photoshop to edit, and then I'll transfer to Adobe Illustrator to finalize the logo. But I will use Procreate just to sketch some ideas first. So I'm going to create a logo for a stationery brand. I've pulled out some objects like pencils, rubbers and brushes, and I'm going to use them and start sketching some ideas to see what I can come up with. Right, so we now have our sketches. Let's start putting together the objects to create our logo. Right, so I've chosen the recycled concept. I just really like the form. It's very minimal. And as you can see, I'm using a Stanley to cut the pencils down. And then what I'll do is I'll put the pencils together to create the form and start taking some high quality photos, which I'll then transfer into Photoshop. Right, so we're now in Photoshop, and as we can see, the photo is looking pretty dull. I'm not a photographer or a photo editor, so I'm just going to play around with the dials as best as I can to try and brighten up the image. My aim is to basically bring out the greens within the pencils and bring out the white background a lot more, so that it's ready for when we remove the backgrounds. Right, so the image is looking a lot better now. So yeah, we just basically got to get rid of the backgrounds. So how I do it is I'll unlock the layer and I'll use the pen tool. I just feel with the pen tool you can really get crisp lines, and yeah, it just looks a lot more neater and cleaner doing it this way. So I'm just going to speed it up because it takes a bit of time. So yeah, let's get into it. Right, so we're now in Illustrator and we have our mark. I apologise if you can't see me doing this process. The camera's decided to play up. So all we need to do is add some typography. So let me just make the mark a little bit smaller. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some drop shadow to it. I don't normally add drop shadow to things, but because this is, you know, real objects, I kind of want to keep it as realistic as possible. So if we just drop the opacity down to 25%, we'll offset it to the left, the shadow, and then we will 10, and we'll blur it around about there, I think. Okay, that looks good. And yeah, let's find some typography now. I won't go into too much detail about it and what I do when looking for typefaces, but I'm basically just looking at the form of the mark I have, and I'm trying to find a typeface that has similar characteristics. So this is called recycled stationery. I think I spelled that right. And we're going to make the stationery a bit smaller, and then we'll center it. So looking at the form of the mark, we have like the way the pencil goes from like thick to thin. It's quite pointy. So I'm thinking of a serif typeface, I think. So let's filter this down to a serif. Let's move that aside quickly. So yeah, I'm just going to scroll through and see what I like, basically. That's quite nice. Quite like Caslon. Okay, so let's make the type a little bit bigger. Let's make the mark a little bit smaller, and we're going to drop the leading. So I'm going to bring down stationery slightly lower, and it looks quite nice. Let's bring the mark down a little bit. Yeah, it's quite nice. Let's just align it. Okay, I'm going to color pick the green because I feel we should change the color of the type. So I think I quite like the off black. Reminds me of, you know, a standard pencil of the leading. So yeah, I think we'll go with off black, and that looks quite nice actually. Let's make the type a little bit smaller, tighten it up a little bit. I'm gonna make the mark a little bit smaller. Now that looks good. Right, we've colour picked the green already. Yeah, I think I prefer like that. Yeah, okay. So the other idea I have in mind is maybe something that's hand drawn. I think that could look quite fun. So I'm just going to narrow this down to handwritten, handmade, and see what we have. It's quite nice. I like that. Yeah, that looks good. It's definitely handwritten for sure. I quite like that. Stationery looks a bit off though. Just going to bring that more center. It's just, yeah, it looks nice. I quite like that. I'm going to tighten up the leading again. Let's bring stationery up a little bit. That looks quite nice actually. yeah, it's quite fun. And what we can do is we could find another typeface to go with that, so we have some contrast. So I'm just going to pick like a clean sans serif typeface. I'm going to go for Poppins. I really like this, but I think we need to keep it quite light. We don't want to go bold. So I'm thinking, oh, spelled that wrong. Poppins, extra light, and then we can make this a lot smaller. It just kind of gives some contrast to the logo. Yeah, I really like that. I might try and darken up the drop shadow slightly. Bring it up to about 35%. Yeah. That looks quite nice. Let's bring that down a little bit. Also, what I like to do as well, I like to make the tracking slightly wider. Makes the type a little bit more legible when it's made smaller. Yeah, it looks really nice. So there we have it, our final logos using objects. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's something slightly different, but I feel it's always good to try ideas that come to mind, because this can really lead into other opportunities. So yeah, if you like this episode, make sure to hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep up with all my weekly content. Take it easy, and I'll catch you same time next week.